We know for a fact that this derailment occurred at car number 23. This train had 3 locomotives, 2 at the head end. The lead locomotive had 3 crew members, including 1 trainee. The third locomotive was between rail cars 109 and 110. There were also 149 rail cars on the train. Car number 23 was a hopper car, which carried plastic pellets. It was the combination of the hot axle and the plastic pellets which started the initial fire. Now, the train passed 3 wayside defect detectors which identify overheated bearings and provide an audible warning to train crews. At each detector, the recorded temperature of the bearing increased from 38 degrees Fahrenheit above the ambient temperature, which at the time was 10 degrees Fahrenheit, to 103 degrees above ambient just 10 miles later. Both of those temperatures are considered by Norfolk Southern to be non-critical. The critical threshold per Norfolk Southern is above 200 degrees ambient. Upon passing the third detector with a temperature of 253 degrees above ambient, that's critical, 253 degrees above ambient, a critical audible alarm message sounded, instructing the crew to slow and stop the train to inspect the hot axle, and if warranted, to set car number 23 out. Now, NTSB investigators at this time have not identified any operational issues with the wayside defect detectors, but we're still looking at them. There's also no evidence of track defects. The engineer at the time was following another train and was already in dynamic braking to slow behind the train. So he increased the brake application to further slow and stop the train, meaning he responded immediately. We have no evidence that the crew did anything wrong. And during this deceleration, the wheel bearing failed. Car number 23 derailed, and the train initiated an emergency brake application and came to a stop. So the emergency brake application was triggered by the derail. Now, in total, 38 cars derailed, and a fire ensued which damaged an additional 12 cars. On February 5th, responders mitigated the fire, but five cars, which are designated as 105, DOT 105 specification tank cars, were located near the number 23, which derailed. So we had the 5 vinyl chloride cars. 4 of them were at 26, 27, 28, and 29, and the 5th one was at 53. They were carrying well over 115,000 gallons of vinyl chloride. Now, that continued to concern authorities because the temperature inside one of the tank cars was increasing, which could result in a catastrophic explosion. The critical point is 180 degrees, and at the time, one of the cars was reading 140 degrees. As you know, the responders then scheduled a controlled venting of the 5 vinyl chloride tank cars to release and burn the vinyl chloride. The NTSB had no role in the decision-making or carrying out of the vent and burn. And I want to repeat that. We are not part of the decision-making or the carrying out of the vent and burn. The Federal Railroad Administration has guidance for how to conduct vent and burns. So as part of our investigation, we will evaluate whether the vent and burn was carried out according to that guidance and whether that guidance needs to be updated. With respect to the tank cars, transporting the hazmat, The train consist, that's the list of what's included in the train by car, included 20 hazmat tank cars transporting combustible liquids, mostly lubricants and cooking oil, flammable gas, and the vinyl chloride. 17 of those 20 tank cars were fully loaded. 3 were residue cars. All of those cars were placarded, though the placards were plastic and melted. Aluminum also melts. So we are looking at that situation, and we'll determine whether we recommend something else that could protect placards. Placards are there to tell emergency responders what is on a tank car and what the dangers are to themselves and to others. They are critical in response and in protecting the community. Yesterday, our investigators conducted a detailed damage assessment of the tank cars, including identifying and measuring breaching damages, noting where entire lading was lost, the condition of pressure relief devices, and other service equipment, underframes, and welded attachments. They also secured the top fittings on the vinyl chloride tank cars, including the pressure relief devices, and we're sending those to Texas to be tested. The wheel bearing from car number 23 has also been collected, and that will come to NTSB headquarters. We have a recorder laboratory, and we also have a materials laboratory that will come to our materials laboratory. So here's what we're focused on in this investigation: the wheel set and the bearing. Roller bearings typically last the life of a wheel set, but they do have a finite life, typically between 100,000 and 300,000 miles. There are a number of causes for overheated roller bearings. These could include fatigue cracking, water damage, mechanical damage, a loose bearing, or a wheel defect, and we will look at all that. We will look at rail car design and maintenance practices of Norfolk Southern, as well as Norfolk Southern's inspection procedures. We'll also look at any history of prior accidents involving car number 23 and this wheel set.